the Family Safety Center. They have great resources. There's information on your table. Please get the information. It's not limited to any specific family, entity, culture, whatever. They have services for everyone. Miss Debbie Coffman, she's the Center Navigator and the LGBTQ Liaison. Debbie Coffman.
So grateful to be part of this tonight. As you can see, work for the Family Safety Center. How many people have heard of the Family Safety Center? I don't know if that's good or bad. Actually, it's probably a good thing. But we help victims of intimate partner violence. So if you've been a victim of domestic abuse, say for instance you call the police, they may answer the call, they send you usually to the Family Safety Center to pursue charges possibly and or an order of protection. But we do also do more than just orders of protections. What I'd like to do is present a PowerPoint presentation to you, but I do want to let you know that at any time if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Like David said before, there are pamphlets. Some are the green ones here, they are more for the heterosexual couples. And then the ones, obviously, with the pride flag are more geared towards the LGBT community. So take what you need, please. Take it to anyone you think may need any information on domestic abuse. So going forward, so what is domestic violence? What is your definition of domestic violence? Anybody?
Abuse in a relationship, abuse in a relationship.
Do you think most people think it's just physical?
Family, not no, mentally, emotionally, verbally.
Right, it can be, and so many people just relate domestic violence to the actual physical abuse, but what it is basically control and power in a relationship. So, as you can see here, a pattern of abusive behavior that is used to gain or maintain power over their intimate partner. So, in Memphis and Shelby County, 1 in every 4 women have been the victim of domestic violence. 56% of all local violent crime is domestic. I noticed the statistics for September of 2015 for Memphis Police Department. They answered 1,400 domestic calls. So that's roughly about 45 calls a day. And that's to go along with shoplifting, criminal trespass, burglaries, robberies. So it's a lot. As you can see, there's some other statistics there for 2012 and 2013. Unfortunately, it seems like the numbers keep getting higher, and unfortunately, they do not get lower. Also, a lot of people have the misconception that men cannot be victims of domestic violence, and we all know that's not true. We don't see as many men. I think that might be part of kind of the male ego in some instances, where they don't want to get the police involved, they feel like they can handle the situation themselves. Chime in at any time if you young men want to comment on that. But we are getting more male victims in all the time, every day. Also, 50% of men who frequently assault their wives, also, and that doesn't necessarily have to be wives, intimate partners, also assault the children. So that's something to keep in mind. As you can see some other statistics there, I do want to point out LGBT couples experience DV rates comparable to straight couples, but unfortunately there are significantly fewer resources available, but we are definitely working on changing that. So domestic violence, again, any behavior that intimidates, manipulates, humiliates, frightens someone, threatens them, blames them, that is domestic abuse. So, of the domestic abuse cases, many are high-risk cases, which those are usually the ones that hit the news, that you hear all too often. 79% of the cases involve choking or strangulation of some kind. Almost half the cases involve stalking or some form of harassment, and we're actually seeing a lot more of that. 29% of the victims, almost 1/3, had filed multiple order protections against the individuals. 38% of the offenders were serial offenders, which basically means they've had multiple people file on them for domestic assault or orders of protection. And then, not quite sure how this is relevant, but 27% of the offenders were known gang members. So this is the power and control wheel. So this was created by the Duluth, it's called the Duluth model. You can actually Google it at www.theduluthmodel.org. This was created many years ago, I want to say around 30 years ago. As you can see, it's kind of a little gender biased. It usually says her on it, but we're going to say the other person. So we all know that it goes both ways, men and women. So as you can see, with physical violence is the actual wheel, and then the spokes are made up of all the different types of abuse that can be used to keep the person under your power and control. So, for instance, using coercion and threats, threatening to call BCS, threatening to go to the boss and make you lose your job, intimidation, emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is, in my mind, almost the worst. Physical abuse, obviously, it's horrible at times, but I can tell you the minute a person walks into my office that's been a victim of emotional abuse. They can't look you in the eye, they can't hold their hands up, they walk with their shoulders slumped. It's really, really sad. And really, to me, that's even greater to overcome than, say, a black eye. I mean, you're not trying to put any less emphasis on the physical assault, but the emotional abuse is really, really difficult, and that's why we do, especially in those cases, try to refer out for counseling. Also, using isolation. I apologize because I can't see some of this because my eyes are horrible. Isolation using, thank you, that's a little better. Controlling what a person does, who they go, who they see, who they can visit, who they can have over, and then also blaming, that's a big key. You're responsible for my behavior. You're the reason I got angry and hit you. You're the reason I continue to get angry and hit you. Using children. Unfortunately, we see all too often that children get kind of caught in the middle. Children can be used as a means to keep tabs on the other person. A lot of times people will go through the court system to establish their parental rights, only as a means to keep tabs on the intimate partner, unfortunately. Using male privilege, again, that's the typical, stereotypical male dominant over woman, and also economic abuse. So anytime a person will try to control all the money in the relationship, then that again can be a sign of domestic abuse. Now, you're probably looking at this and thinking, well, gee, I may have done this a time or two. Well, the difference is if your partner makes you aware of it, or you become aware of it yourself, and you change your behavior, well, then you're not an abuser. But it's when you continue to do these things, even though your partner, asked you not to, well, then that's when you might decide to get a little help. So this is The LGBTQ power and control bill, which is very similar to the other. However, there are some differences. Specifically want to point out, again, I have to get closer because I can't see. Excuse me. So, especially with a LGBTQ relationship, a person can threaten to out the other person. And that can definitely keep somebody under power and control. If they're, say their family or friends don't realize that they're out, or they're not out, or maybe they're not out at work, and having that knowledge come to fruition may cost them a job. You never know. This day and age it could, unfortunately. Also, again, the put downs, the emotional abuse, making the person feel bad about themselves, questioning if you are like a real lesbian or a gay man, which basically just reinforces internalized homophobia. Also, again, you have the isolation, the blaming, using children or pets, coercion and threats, intimidation, and also economic abuse. So, why does he or she abuse? That's a great question. Well, basically because they get away with it. So it could be, maybe they were exposed to domestic violence in their childhood. That can, statistically, that can be a big factor. Usually males who grow up in a domestic violence household will be more apt to be an abuser. And usually females will be more apt to get involved in an abusive relationship. Also, poverty is a big level of poverty. Have high DV levels because financial stress lead to relationship stress. And it can also alter the balance of power in the family structure. And also, again, belief systems and family and gender roles. So breaking the cycle for abusers. Some do want to do better, and they just don't know how to get help. And there are professional groups that can give help. Family Safety Center provides that. Also, you have to realize that, as David said earlier, that violence and abuse are always choices. And we have to take responsibility for actions and possibly give anger management or recognize the triggers. So, what makes this victim stay? Fear, I think, is a big, big reason. The fear of the unknown, the fear of living by yourself, the fear of having to go to court, the fear of having to get the police involved, the fear that they may call your job and you'll lose your job possibly, the fear of not having a second income, the fear of not having someone to watch your kids. Fear is a big one, Also, you have many other reasons listed there. Commitment, money is another big one. Love, religious beliefs even, and pets. So the cycle of violence, basically what occurs is you have the abuse that actually occurs, the violent behavior. Then once it occurs, it goes into the honeymoon phase, which what we mean by that is the abuser becomes nice. They apologize, they are on their P's and Q's for a little while, they act like you're the best thing that's ever happened to them, you're the best person in the world, and you're basically back to that same loving relationship you wanted for a period of time. And then slowly the tension starts to build again, where you start walking on eggshells, their behaviors start coming through again, where they may start showing those signs of intimidation and threats. And then before you know it, there's another violent episode. So that is the cycle of domestic violence. Any questions so far? No? Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, how would you categorize like a person being in a relationship with someone and that person says they'll kill themselves or something like that if the person leaves? Would they be more psychological, emotional? How do you categorize?
Both, actually.